Hey folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today's video is going to be a little different. It might look a little familiar. I'm actually going to do a remake of a very old video that I've been getting a lot of mentions lately about how poor quality it is, because it was not really good and it was very old, and I made some changes since then, so I wanted to redo it. We're going to be making this Plumeria flower, and it has two different colors, and it is going to be made partially on a quilling comb, and then also some of it's going to be done by hand. So as far as supplies go, I used a deep red and then just a white. These are both from Craft Harbor paper, so they're about 24 inches long. And I have my needle tool and I have my quilling comb. I always use those together. And as far as glue goes, it's just going to be Elmer's white glue. If you'd like to, you can grab a work board and some wax paper, because you're going to put your flower together on that in the end. First, we're going to start off by making the center of the petals. The center is going to be made by using this dark red paper. And again, these strips are about 24 inches long. You won't need an entire strip for each individual petal, but I don't want to give you an exact measurement because it's going to vary by how far you roll it on the needle tool to begin with. I always like to do that as a little anchor. Gives my quilling a place to start and hold on to a little bit better on my quilling comb, and it also makes a difference how big your quilling comb is on how long that strip's going to be. So to save yourself a little bit of a headache later, and use a bigger paper. So back to the petal, I started off with the anchor, and then I went on my quilling comb, I went up 3 teeth, pulled my strip back to the back and around again. And then I'm going to go up in the same exact spot, but 2 higher. And then back to the bottom, and then up 2 more, and then back to the bottom. So what I did is I put my anchor on, and then I made 3 loops, each getting a little bit bigger at a time. I did not glue each one. If you'd like to, you are welcome to. I like to put a tiny little drop, not at the bottom, but more so on the back, right where it hits the bottom of the quilling comb. And let that set for a moment. And then you can go ahead and carefully pull that piece off your quilling comb and set that comb aside, because you're not going to need that again for these petals. That's the only part we're going to use it for. Now we're going to start using our fingers to make loops. So you can see the tail is naturally going up to the next side. So I'm going to make a loop on that side, bring it back down to the bottom. And here, oops, everything out of the way. Here, I am going to add a little bit of glue each time I pass over the bottom again, just to be on the safe side. Right there. So back over the bottom again, and now we're on the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a loop a little bit smaller than the last loop I made on the quilling comb. You can see it there. Back down to the bottom. Another touch of glue. And I'm going to go back to the first side, make another small loop on that side. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the second side, around the same size. I will mention, in addition to this Craft Harbor paper being nice and long, it's also a little bit of a thinner weight than, say, the paper I use most often, which is the Quilt Creation. That's actually going to be really helpful for using this finger molding technique here, because the paper won't really crease on you. It just really loops naturally, very simply. So if you can find that, or just a thinner weight paper, I would use that instead of like a cardstock for this. That really probably wouldn't be a good idea. After I made the second loop on the second side, I tore off the excess and glued it down to the bottom. And this is the shape that you should have at this point. This is what's going to be the center red part of the flower. It's okay if it kind of bows out a little bit like that on the sides. That's going to change later on. And just to recap, we had that center anchor, and then 3 up on the quilling comb, and then I went back and forth 2 times each with my fingers. The next thing we're going to do is add the white part of the petals. And for that, I just need one strip again. I'm not going to use the entire sheet, but a good amount of it. And I like to tear off the end so I get a torn edge. If you followed me at all, you know I love a torn edge when I add paper to paper because it makes it nice and smooth of a transition. And I'm going to start this strip right where I ended the last one. Right? Like it's one continuous strip. I don't want it to fall in the other direction. I don't want it to kind of start in the middle anywhere. It's going to go right on the bottom. At some point it will stick. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is carefully, without smushing all these beautiful loops we just made, completely wrap the red loops that we made in this white. And again, I said I'm not completely smashing them, but I did kind of form them with my fingers just to get them in line a little bit. I wrap it once, add a little glue to the bottom, and then I'm going to wrap it again. It's going to center everything. It's going to pull those bowed out red loops I mentioned before into formation, and it helps us get the final look we are trying to do, which is a nice kind of a paddle shaped petal. And after I made the 2 passes around with the white, I'm going to start just like I did with the red paper, making loops on either side, going back and forth and gluing at the bottom. I'm going to do 2 on each side that are going to be a little bit smaller as I go, just pretty much exactly the same as the red. So we did 1, 2 on that side, and then 1, 2 on the other side. And this is a good amount of kind of juggling back and forth and making sure you have everything without dropping it. It's really not that complicated once you kind of get the hang of it. You can even make some little notes so you don't have to keep referring back to the video. Whatever works, but I know it looks complicated to be doing this with your hands, but I promise it's really not. After the 2 loops on either side are made, I'm going to go back around and do 1, 2 passes again with the white to make sure that it's completely wrapped around and everything stays where I want it to stay. After I have the petal wrapped twice, I'm going to tear off the excess and glue a little bit of tail down. And all of that wrapping and keeping those loops up high on the petal is going to give it the look. Again, I kind of described it like a paddle before, where it's a little bit thinner at the bottom and then sort of bows out into a nice rounded edge. Forming this flower, it really couldn't be any easier. You're just going to glue 5 together on the bottom. Plumerias in real life are kind of shingled, and they are a bit more of a reddish, kind of bright red color instead of that dark red, but I used a little bit of liberty here and used the idea of the Plumeria with the red and the white and just kind of made it a little bit more workable with quilling and made a little bit of different colors for today. You can add some leaves if you want, nice bright tropical broadleaves. I just added a video on how to make those on a quilling comb. I will link to that in case you missed it. But I think this video, it definitely worked out better than that one from, I don't know, it was 6 or 7 years ago. So I hope anybody who was having some frustration with that terrible video is getting a little bit more out of this one, and you give it a try because it really is. It is a pretty flower. It's great for summer, again, like kind of tropical vibes. And it's a fun technique to use your hands instead of just a needle tool or slotted tool or a quilling comb or whatever is your favorite. If you are really good at using the quilling board or the knitting board with the one that has little metal pegs on it, you could totally do that on with the Plumeria as well instead of using your fingers. I hope you all enjoy this one. Don't forget to leave any questions or comments down below. I will link to any tools I use and any other videos that might be helpful. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be notified of the next video that I make. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.